Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting story. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Morning. I hope all our fatherly figures had a good Father's Day. If you haven't seen our community post, I took Joe to a museum and he spent 3 hours talking to the owner. It was hilarious. And we got invited back with our paranormal toys. Apparently she's had other groups there. So we intend to do that sometime. I don't know when. Right now I'm waiting for Angel to finish decorating our case for one of our new toys. Hopefully she'll get that done. She's been a bit busy adjusting to her new job and schedule and stuff, so we'll have to just wait and see. Anyway, I chose a camel race today because it was very hot this weekend. We also had a very fun thunderstorm, which I might put up a short. What do you think? Anyway, are you ready? Here we go. Shadow time. Here's a shadow just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout out is for our friend. Let's see who it is today. Ready? Start. Or not. Start. There we go. Okay, let's see who I can see. All right, people, my eyes are watery today. Rook, Gypsy, Traveling Van, Wit, Lower. If I could say words, it would be good. Makeup, Bluegrass, Donna, Sylvia, Rubies, Lainey. Gypsy's currently in the lead. There's Tessa, there's Talks, there's Stace, there's Baked, Richard, Tay Eats, Woman Outdoors, and Bobby. Did I say Donna? I think I said Donna. There's Jared and Bluegrass. Oh, Gypsy's losing the lead. Now I've got Bluegrass in the lead. Oh, we got some people from the back. There's TNT. There's Amy. There's Tramps. There's Hillbillies. There's Derek. And here comes Gypsy again. Oh, is it going to be Gypsy? It is Gypsy. Okay, this is Gypsy Lola. And Gypsy Lola is a mother of 3. And she loves clearance shopping. And so many of her videos are, Dollar Tree, Dollar General. There's a couple of Temu. But basically, this is content I didn't know you could do. Oh, that's from a year ago, but her videos are shopping related, showing off new and interesting things that Dollar Tree has on them. So if you're interested in that content, check them out. Like, share, comment. Have a good day. All right, Mr. Batterhead.
All right. Interesting item of the day. We are technically on the border between Nebraska and South Dakota. Nebraska here, South Dakota here. This, on this side, is a town called White Clay. Over here is a town called Pine Ridge. Now, for a number of decades, what would happen is that people on Pine Ridge lived in what's known as a dry town. Nobody sold alcohol. White Clay had, I think, between 4 and 6 liquor stores. And what would wind up happening is if people would get their checks, they would come to this side of the town, they would get their booze, and they would either, pass out here, or they would head back up the road and pass out along the way. It was a horrible situation. People, suffered from it. Alcoholism is still rampant. Well, a couple of years ago, Pine Ridge had 2 things happen. One, they held a vote legalizing liquor. Of course, the only thing is that they never sold it. Just because they could, didn't mean they were going to, which kind of kudos to them. Likewise, another episode happened in Nebraska where a lot of the liquor licenses were done away with. To give you an idea how bad of a situation it was over here in White Clay, they actually had it's like some percentage of their entire sales for the state flow through White Clay, a town of less than 10 people. But it's because all that alcohol would be sold and then sent back up across the state line. And so it was a problem that was feeding itself. Now, we're going to give you guys a little tour here of the town. Some things have changed. For example, there's now a Family Dollar. Now there's a Dollar General. A couple of these other places that we see. There's like a trading post here. You know, different businesses are starting to come back to the town, which, you know, in turn feeds people wanting to do things. Now, there's still a grocery store here, a clothing shop. We've got a repair center, a couple health stations.
Tiny Inn.
Yep, Fireside Inn. Pioneer Service. Some side roads. There's actually a total of like 4 roads inside White Clay. But for the most part, you know, it is still a small town. But because it was able to make those updates, you know, the town is actually starting to show better signs. Down here, a rather large investment was made because there's now a retirement home for the Lakota, which is kind of cool. Here's also a place where they can, you know, have ceremony and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. We'll come down here, because this is the great big center here. But Pine Ridge, for its, you know, it is considered the capital of the Oglala Lakota County, and it's considered a autonomous state, which is kind of funny, given that, you know, whenever something goes wrong, they usually call to the state of South Dakota to come in and help them.
Right.
But yeah, you know, great big nursing home. It had to take quite a bit of money to build this, which is kind of cool. And actually, if you take a drive back north into Pine Ridge, I think you can see what used to be their retirement home, but has changed hands. It's now a private housing area. But like we were mentioning, a lot of things with Pine Ridge revolves around not the fact that we're going to tear it down and replace it, but you're going to take one building and it gets used, you know, 3 to 4 times. There was one building that we saw at the intersection that would go from Pine Ridge up to Hot Springs, and when you looked at it on a map, this one house was a school, it was a Department of Transportation, it was the City Council building, and now it's presently sitting just kind of derelict. But it's because, you know, they just don't have the funding to take and build something new. And so you got all these old buildings that are just kind of, you know, sitting there going to seed. But should we take them for a tour back into Pine Ridge, or do you want to go down and see Rushville?
I don't know. Which way you want to go?
Let's go for Rushville.
All right, Rushville it is.
We have not gone this way. I did see, looking at the map, that there are multiple churches, interestingly enough, along this way. Some of them look like they also might have a cemetery or two. So this is something totally new.
There is a couple cemeteries in Rushville.
Yeah, come along for the ride, as we say. But yeah, we're just kind of out and about, exploring the
Rushville,
back roads.
21 miles.
Ooh.
Ooh, house.
House.
Where did you go, house? There you are.
Oh.
It's harder to do with the camera on. I think I caught it.
Right there.
I got over there.
Some grain silos. Flour, sugar. Oh. That dang it. No. Here we go again, class. But yeah, we're right now just above what's known as the Sand Hills. The Sand Hills is a part of Nebraska that's kind of funny because for the longest time, it was more sand dunes, and people really didn't know what to do with the land. It wasn't really good for farming, but they found out that cattle could use it pretty good because the dunes has places where water pools up, so the cattle can get refreshed. Grass grows pretty readily in places, so they have something to eat. And it turns out to be some of the best cattle producing area in the Midwest. A couple older buildings too.
I see that.
Oh, it's like an old school.
Yeah.
But this was one of the major corridors that they had once the reservation was established and settled. The two main routes, of course, came from Fort Robinson, known as the Red Cloud Village, and then you had Rushville leading up this way is where they would take cattle and stuff for Pine Ridge. Patton Creek. And it's probably not the Patton that you would think of, George S. There was a family on the reservation with the last name Patton. I went to school with one of the kids. But kind of, gently rolling hills. There's nothing really, up drift like the Badlands or the Black Hills. Oh, they got one of their funky little signs.
No, this is what I call the plains.
Yeah.
There's a directional sign.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is, look up on Shorta from a bazillion years ago.
Bazillion?
Bazillion.
Bazillion and a half?
Not a half yet.
Oh, okay. It's bazillion 3/4. Got it.
Right, exactly.
Huh?
Do you doubt me?
No.
Don't doubt me.
I do not doubt. But, some of these trails, when they would take send tribes down to meet with folks in Oklahoma, they would come down through these parts. A lot of different tribes, when the Midwest was very sparsely occupied, a lot of this was all, wide open rangeland. Trappers would come through here, trying to look for pelts and stuff. One of the major rivers we crossed back in the middle of Pine Ridge is actually White River. The White River goes all the way almost to Shattered and south. And one of the original trails that they had to run pelts went all the way out to Fort Laramie. And we visited that site too, and eventually this summer we're going to go take a tour of that.
I cannot wait to be able to do
awesome.
those.
Yes. The history is going to be deep on that one, kids. Be sure to tune in.
I can't wait to just take our K2 into those buildings.
Oh, yes. The hotel, the barracks, the whole bit. It'll be fun, Yeah. Check your phone lines. We don't have a phone line. But this is also, again, kind of a rural area because, there's a couple ranches here and there. But not a lot of development as far as your towns go because, well, your primary focus for the towns came in via the railroad, which is down by Rushville. Pine Ridge didn't really have any railroads either, but they relied either on commerce coming in from Rapid, which settled in the 1870s. You also had, a couple different sorts that came in. The railroad actually came through. You had Interior, you had Scenic, and those places, sit in roads. They followed trails primarily. One of them was a fun little road that is affectionately Red Shirt Table Road. We were on that for a little while. A little bit bumpy, but not bad. But it has a beautiful view of what the Badlands look like from it. And then the southern portion of that is known as South Unit, also made up of the Cooney Table, which is part of the northern section. But a lot of that area in there was used for the Badlands bombing area. They used during World War II to practice bombing runs. Sadly, there are still places where they can find live ammunitions to this day. Which means if you find something, go ahead and contact them and say, do you want to send out a crew? They'll actually send a crew out from the base to recover and then detonate unexploded ordnance for safety reasons. There's a cabin over there.
See that?
Yeah. But, Nebraska, even though it settled before South Dakota did, it's still, western Nebraska is like western South Dakota. There's not a lot of people that have settled out here. Some of your smaller towns, Harrison is a good example, Crawford is a good example. They just, a lot of them relied on the railroad, which, is perfectly natural. Rapid City happened to luck out because we actually had like 3 different railroads come into Rapid at one time. 4 if you count the Crouch line. But eventually, when the railroads either merged or like the Milwaukee line, it went bankrupt in 1980. All those small towns all of a sudden were like, oh shoot. Because it was their primary source of, people coming in or out, or their primary source of getting, items to market. The cattle industry, when Belle Fourche decided to switch out from cattle to things like grain and stuff, all of a sudden all these ranchers were like, well, now we're either going to have to use semis or find a local market that we can sell the cattle through. South Dakota is kind of in that same boat because we used to have a packing plant in Rapid. Unfortunately, it caught fire in 1992, and they haven't been able to replace it since. I think the closest place now, there's one in East River in Sioux Falls. I think there's a second one that either opened by Chamberlain, but I'd have to check my maps again. But I know they were going to try to build one here in Rapid, but it never came to be.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Needless to say, you're going to know if you have a packing plant nearby because the smell is not good.
We had one once.
Oh, make you nauseous in first period because our high school is literally right across the interstate from it. But yeah, it was an interesting situation. Now imagine, I think Omaha had a packing plant, and I want to say Grand Island probably did. Not sure if Kearney did or not, or Hastings, or some of those other Nebraska towns that I know of. But again, they also had 2 spears for the railroad coming out of Omaha. Omaha was one of the biggest hubs. I've seen pictures of what their rail yards look like, and it is impressive. I mean, I can't imagine Rapid City dealing with that many rail lines going in and out at one time. Belle Fourche is doing pretty good right now because of the rails. And of course, a lot of people are kind of crossing their fingers and holding their breath to see if we wind up getting passenger rail back. Probably won't happen for 3 to 5 years, if it does. Because they're speculating that one line would go from the Twin Cities down to Sioux Falls, up to Pierre, over to Rapid, and down into Nebraska, and then down to Denver. The other group thinks that it would be easier to go Minneapolis, St. Paul, down to Sioux Falls, down to Omaha, and then either down to Kansas City and across, or go to Omaha and across to Cheyenne and down to Denver. In a way, I think it would be cool if they did it in South Dakota because we used to have passenger service back in the 60s, but then it got cut before Amtrak got underway. Since then, all we've had here in South Dakota has been basically freight. Freight has actually gone through in about 3 different groups. Burlington Northern, the Milwaukee. Right now, our big is the RCP&E, Rapid City, Pacific, and Eastern. For a while there was talk that we were going to have a merge with the Canadian Pacific line, but unfortunately that fell through. It wound up bankrupting one of the companies, which was kind of sucky. But, I think the biggest problem that they would have doing rail in Rapid is that people get tired of the railroads cutting through town and blocking off traffic.
Right.
I'm sorry, railroads can't suddenly levitate.
They can't?
No, it just doesn't work that way. It'd be nice if it did, but, and so, and then the fact that, sometimes the trains will go through at like 2 o'clock in the morning, which is fun to try to sleep. You're like, okay, I hear you. We lived in an apartment building that was right next to railroad tracks. Lots of fun, Every once in a while on Facebook, somebody would say, would somebody tell the train to knock it off? Footloose.
Well,
Actually, that's a solitary moo-moo.
solitary moo-moo.
He's a social distancer. He's a skilled one. You see any other cows? I don't.
No other cows.
Joey's
wandered
snow
away.
fences. Yeah, he got out on his own. He's like, screw you guys, I'm on my own. I'm a single moo. Some houses over there. There's like a couple oldies too. But yeah, a lot of places, towns will, thrive for a few years, and then different events, whether crops don't succeed. The Dust Bowl. There's an old building. Come on, look.
Yeah, I see that.
The Dust Bowl was really bad because it literally, nothing could grow. The Depression was also pretty bad because all of a sudden people couldn't find work. One thing I do remember was that there was a lot of towns that they had actually sent the guys off to go work. And the poor wife would be stuck at home with, 2 or 3 kids trying to keep things going. And it just was an absolute nightmare. I remember reading one lady who had started living at Dowling, and her husband went all the way over to Brookings, which is a distance of like 300 plus miles, because he had a job that was guaranteed out there, and so she had to stay home. The nearest hospital for them was like 40 miles to the south.
I leave you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would have left myself. But Dowling now, it has a whopping population of 0. There's a few farms and ranches nearby, but the town itself, what's left standing is the church, the cemetery, and we're still trying to figure out if that meeting hall across the road is for Ash Creek, which it might, or it was for Dowling. But we're still doing research in to see who exactly owned that set of property. I think we had our church coming up here, one of the first churches. Definitely got a big roof.
Yep, definitely.
Yep. There's the church. You got an outhouse behind it.
Many of them do for reasons.
Probably because they can't get plumbing this far out.
I'm not going to your church if you don't have plumbing.
No kidding.
I'm sorry, that is a requirement.
I'm not into pit toilets. Sorry. Something way out there in the yard. Then there's this funky little breed shack. It's been spray painted.
I see that. I missed it.
But a lot of these times, you're a lot of places, if you're going to be able to rely on your neighbors, your town might be able to survive for a little while. For example, from what I understand, Mud Creek, at one time, it had a decent amount of neighbors. It had schools. It had a post office. It has churches. But over the time, people started going, there's nothing here. We can go move down to Newell and have closer accessibility.
Right.
You have grocery stores. You got gas stations. The invention of the car, since the railroad had already bypassed them, the car made it that much easier to say, well, we're tired of trying to make it work out here. Let's move closer to civilization. Schools. Once the schools closed, if you wanted your kids to have an education, either A, you had to educate them there at home. Ooh, here comes another building.
I see.
Ooh. 2 of them.
Building.
3.
Ooh, yes, please.
4.
Oh, yes, please.
Oh.
Oh, look at that, guys. Do not enter. No hunting or trespassing. All right, nice.
Very nice. Give you a clean window here to stare through. That one, I think, is a school.
Definitely
that
could
far
be.
back one, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Definitely could be. This is pretty much what we do. We just drive around and we see an old building, we stop and look at it and like, should we listen to the sign? Should we break the sign?
It's like when we were in back in town, we actually saw bolt cutters, and I'm like, oh.
We are not allowed to own those because
No.
we would be breaking so many laws.
Snip, snip, snip.
Not that these are hard to get past because they're like cemetery gates.
Yeah. You just unhook the cable or swing the pin.
The question is, how often does somebody come down this road?
Right.
How likely are we going to get caught? There goes a car.
Yep.
Speaking of which.
Yeah, and a lot of it, it comes down to the speculation. Obviously, since this is actually funny enough, this is a highway. It's a 2-lane highway, Highway 87. It's the primary conduit for Pine Ridge. There goes the truck.
Vroom.
To Rushville. So, yeah, this would not be high on my list for sneaking in, but I would probably look up the property docket and see if we could talk to somebody about going up.
Which he says every time, and has yet to do anything about it.
There's a car behind that one.
I kind of thought I saw a car, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it looks like it might be an older car, but it's hard to tell.
Hard to tell. Of course, who also has those county docket books? When we were in Crawford, that historical society place has those docket books.
Nice.
That might be fun to go peruse. Although I guess there now is things online.
Yeah, there's a couple of things online I've heard that where you can.
You pay so much a month, and you can pull up the list of who owns what property. All you need is basically an idea of where it's located at. And then there's this wonderful thing called Google Earth that helps you on.
I think it's for like hikers and hunters. I've seen it mostly for like hunters.
Yeah.
And outdoor activities like.
Now, one thing I did see that I'm still trying to get the because I guess it has finally gone to court, but I haven't heard if they made a decision on it yet. Over by where Smithville used to be, not Smithville, the crossing where the Fort Pierre to Deadwood Trail came over the Cheyenne River. Interestingly enough, because of the way that they squared off their lands into public area and homesteading areas, a bunch of the neighbors over there tried to say that, we're getting rid of right-of-ways. Because people were using the right-of-ways to get into areas to go hunting.
I can see that. People take advantage of every little...
Oh, yeah. But these people, what they were doing is that they were saying, because we own this square and this square, this is also ours, and we're taking money from people to let them onto there to hunt. Yeah. And even though this is technically public access...
Money, again...
if you could,
you can get money
have a
somehow.
good time of it, with another Jeep. But yeah, there are a lot of maps that I would love to get access to, and places that I would love to go hiking and driving and stuff. Eventually, the idea is later this year we're going to swap this car out to get something with some leg room, and then David can come along with, unless he's bored to tears.
Which he'll be bored for some of them, but
there's a red sign on the map for something.
I saw that red.
Weird.
Couldn't read it though. It was small.
Pretty small. And of course, we have seen some on 385 that are off on the side of the road, and the people have abandoned the house, but then they built a new house on the hill up above it.
Right.
And
those annoy me.
What we'll do is drop off soon. I'll go drive around waving my arms, so they'll be looking at me and not at my wife sneaking into the property. But why would I do something like that? Our phone lines are open.
These are not things that we actually do.
No.
We obey the signs.
Right. Because
we don't always want to obey the signs.
We don't always want to obey the signs,
but we do obey the signs.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing that I do like about our technology that we have nowadays is that with cameras, you can zoom in pretty good and get really good pictures.
We do need to work on our drone. If you do, do that thing we were discussing about with David.
Yeah.
Might be something that you could do is, practice flying the damn drone.
Yeah.
We've had this drone for 3 years?
Yeah, and we can
barely get it off the ground. I did manage to get it to fly, but I hurt myself like 3 times doing it.
One time I wound up crashing it into spaghetti, which I was like, wipe off the blades, try it again.
I think you better do land in spaghetti than to attack yourself with it.
Yeah, that's beneficial.
Just saying.
Full barn over there. But a lot of the things that I also remember reading, again, my wife who's got a really hard time picking out Christmas gifts for me. One of the books was talking about Wyoming, and one of the things that it reiterated a lot is that the reasons why you don't see a lot of buildings sometimes is that when a town dies, sometimes they'll move all, pit and parcel of the town to a new location.
Honestly, I'd love to try to travel and see that.
Yeah.
To see them just literally picking up a town and moving it.
Yeah.
10 miles, 20 miles. We've heard about them moving like churches and other things.
Well,
I'd love to just see that. How did they accomplish that?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Well, this is
Are
unique.
they trying to tow it?
I think they might be trying to troll it. Interesting.
I guess.
How did you get stuck down there, though?
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe they just broke down over there.
But yeah, the angle in which the car is sitting.
I see that now. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
I'm just like, how? It's like that semi that we saw the other day, which I wish I got being able to get a picture of that.
Yeah, they spun out or something. But
I don't know how they got over there.
There's a trail going off that way.
I see you.
But yeah, the thing I do remember quite vividly, and I would love to have seen how they moved it. One of the gold mine camps that they had a 60 stamp mill. Now, if you go back and look at the footage from the Big Thunder gold mine, in that one thing, they had a 4 stamp. Only 4 of them. Now, imagine 60 of those. That would have been a major moving operation for anybody. But somehow they moved the 60 stamp mill. It was at Balmoral, up by Deadwood. If I remember right, it wound up in like 2 or 3 other sites. And so, granted, as soon as somebody found out, oh shoot, this place has got a stamp mill, that's where they would start sending their tailings and stuff because, they could process. Finally, Deadwood became one of the major, operations for gold mining. The Standby mine up by Rochford, it had a stamp mill of size. Keystone, both with the Holy Terror, they had a stamp mill there. And, if I remember, I think Castleton had one too. Of course, Castleton also tried a dredge, which, when it failed, they wound up, moving the dredge all the way out to Oregon, if I remember right. But, a lot of those small towns, Redfield, up in the hills, all that's left of it is a boxcar now.
Right.
Teddy Bear has half a cabin. So, you find a lot of these locations, you're just going, how did they move these towns? Well, some of them, and then other places, they'd wind up chopping it up and burning it in their fireplaces to stay warm. Which, back then, they didn't really think that much about history. They were just trying to survive the winter. There's that old place there. It looks like a couple houses here and there. Slab of hard concrete sitting next to the road. 650 road. That's one other sign that's really funny about some of these Midwestern states. If they can't figure out a name to call something, let's call this 220th road.
Right.
219th road.
We have a lot of numbered roads because nobody's creative in these areas.
Yeah.
Look, numbers.
Numbers.
Meh.
Meh.
Meh. Meh. Say hello to the moo cows. Meh.
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 We do this every time. We see a bunch of cows, we start mooing because we're 5.
We're 5, yes. We don't call them cows, we call them boo-boos. But, you know, yeah, and see, that's the other thing we kind of kick out of is that once in a while, something will throw us completely off. One time, I saw llamas.
Oh, yeah.
In a field. You're like,
we don't see those very often.
Dealing with a llama. Ooh.
There are a couple of llama farms that I've heard of. I see it.
2 of them. Hi, friends. Oh.
Oh, nice. Okay, where's that one? Oh, look at that, guys. Oh. There used to be a fence, but there's no more a fence. We've got to come back. We've got to go up there. We have to go up there. Look at how pretty that is. Oh, look how pretty that is. We have got to come back.
Oh, yes.
There goes a car.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. It's so cool.
Oh. Now, at one time, can you imagine, you know, the 1920s, the fields are just turning ripe. You get that lovely golden tan color. This house, you know, painted, a couple kids running through the yard. Mom sitting in the bay window watching, you know, wagons going up and down the road. You know, Dad out with the horses, taking care of cattle.